Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to this brand new episode of Hockeytown Rundown. You're here with us once again, your beautiful hosts, Carlo and Zach. Carlo, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's happening? We're doing. How you doing?
I'm doing, man. But I'm feeling eliminated, like the Red Wings, out of the playoff contention in the NHL. Unfortunately, the Montreal Canadiens did go into overtime last night, getting at least 1 point to secure their playoff spot. And for those that did not know, all the Red Wings truly needed was to win the remaining games that they had for their schedule, hope that Montreal lost all their games, and then hope that all the other teams like the Rangers, the Blue Jackets, and I think it was the Islanders, correct me if I'm wrong, Carlo, but we could literally only ask for them to win one game and then lose the rest. That was kind of what we were hoping for, Carlos. So not too much luck in that regard, but do you know where we could find some luck? Hopefully in the draft lottery. That's what we can look forward to now at this point, right, Carlo?
That's about all we have now is really just that draft lottery and lots of lottery luck to truly make the best of our pickings wherever that may be. So, yeah, we'll kind of walk through that and what the remaining games look like and how that can impact the Red Wings and their slotting for the lottery. My goodness, we're back. We're back. Lottery talk.
Right before this recording, I stepped outside to let my dogs outside, and I had a NHL mock draft going on in the background, and Carlo's like, the Red Wings got Michael Misa? Yes,
like,
Carlo.
Who are you listening to?
We are in the future now. That is the future. And speaking of the future, Carlo, as it shows on the thumbnail, we do have some prospects actually making way to North America. We will be talking about Axel, Sandin, Pellikka, Michael Brandsegg-Nygård. Their season with Skellefteå over in the SHL has officially come to an end, officially being knocked out of the SHL playoffs. So we will be talking about that. Game recaps as well. We'll be light on those because we do have a lot to cover. A lot happened this week, Carlo. We were very active on social media this week. There was a lot going on and a lot of great discussions amongst the Detroit Red Wings fan base, fans, viewers alike. As always, let's stop and take a moment to say thanks for stopping by on this brand new episode. Once again, we truly do appreciate it. If you are returning, if you're brand new, thanks for stopping by. We truly do appreciate that as well. If you haven't done it already, whether if you're new or returning, if you're viewing us or listening to us on YouTube, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and then hit that notification bell so that way you know when these new episodes come out, and then you get notified when our shorts come out. We're doing a lot of those. We are on TikTok officially too, Carlo. You're doing really well on that so far, buddy.
Listen, I'm doing my best, so I appreciate that it's translating to be well. Doing my best.
And Carlo, they can find it at Hockeytown Rundown, I'm assuming is the at handle for that?
No, it's actually Bananalands123 _ rundown. I'm joking. It is hockeytown.rundown on TikTok.
This guy. Go ahead and follow us on TikTok. If you are on there, we truly do appreciate it, as well as all of our other socials like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're doing some really cool graphics. We will be going over those as well in this episode too, to show you guys those and talk about some of the free agent crop that you could have had, that Steve Yzerman could have targeted. So yeah, that was the little fun teaser I probably should have mentioned earlier, but here you go now. Carlo, let's go ahead and jump into everything.
Let's go.
Also, if you haven't already, I like Carlo. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and then rate us the 5 stars. We truly do appreciate it. And then check out our merchandise store, j2sport.com as well. Carlo, now let's go ahead and jump into everything.
Are we sure?
I think so, unless...
Folks, we're jumping in.
We're jumping in.
Any last words? Last swigs? That's it.
Last
we're jumping in.
Let's go ahead and jump into everything, Carlo. And we have to cover last Sunday's game. So looking at the screen here, like I mentioned, the Red Wings did play on Sunday against the Florida Kitty Cats last Sunday on the 6th. They did end up beating them 2-1, Carlo. To me, barely. And that's only because they had, I think it was like 6 to 8 players not playing that game. It was basically their AHL team that the Red Wings were playing against. And even then, they gave the Detroit Red Wings a very tough time. What did you like about this game? What didn't you like about this game?
Well, I like that they won, especially because, and I'm sorry that's the obvious answer, but especially because they were going into Montreal, after that game. I thought they would carry a lot of momentum into the Montreal game, which it did. Don't get me wrong. They had probably the best first period they had against Montreal, and I think that had a lot to do with the you know, the excitement off coming off that home win with the Florida Panthers. Specifically with that game, though, you know, Detroit, it's tough, man. Like Florida didn't really ice their playoff roster, so I'm just gonna keep it basic. I liked that they won on home ice. I liked that they got over 20 shots, albeit barely over 20 shots. You know, other than the win, there really wasn't much that stood out to me considering the lineup that Florida iced. You know, had it been a 4-1 win by Detroit and they kind of dominated, maybe this opinion of mine changes. But yeah, I don't know. It was a game that they needed to win, and they did win. And I'll leave it at that, man. I'll turn it over to you. What are your takeaways on it?
Alex DeBrincat, 35 goals.
That's a big one. Sure, it's my bad, Alex. Sorry, man.
Lucas Raymond, I guess you can point out that 49 assists. I'm pretty sure that ranks his highest in a season total from him in his career as a Detroit Red Wing. JT Compher slightly being a low-key good player down the stretch. He's been picking up the points lately. I like the fact that the Red Wings were able to score first, and then they were able to score again and not allow a good Florida Panthers team sneak up and try to steal the win from them, even though they almost did. Like I said, this was an AHL team at best, right? I mean, even still, the Red Wings, they didn't do that good of a job this game. I personally believe that they got somewhat lucky. 5 opportunities on the power play, you only scored once. Granted, 20%, okay? But you still got outshot. You couldn't win faceoffs, it looks like, and then you got severely out-hit. Some rough and tussles out there too in this game, but other than that, I mean, you were able to get the 2 points, but at this point, like we said at the beginning of this episode, we probably would have liked a loss. I guess I shouldn't really say it like that, Carlo. I obviously want to win every single game. I like winning, but obviously winning
this game we wanted
to
win because they didn't play Montreal yet. You know what I mean? Like the Montreal game is the one that dictated, you know, going into a game wanting to win or wanting to lose. Like this game, I was desperate on them winning, which I'm glad they did. And you know what? I'm gonna go back to my take on the game. You know, the one thing I'll give the Wings credit for was staying out of the box. They only gave Florida 1 power play, which they killed. I'm gonna give them credit on staying out of the box because had they have taken, you know, 3 penalties, are they winning this game still? Who knows?
Yeah, good point. Good point on that. Let's move over to the Montreal game where the Red Wings got a completely different story. They basically turned into the Florida Panthers in this game, exactly. Carlo. So you lost 4-1. You outshot the Habs 36-21. You scored the first goal again. Detroit Red Wing first periods, Carlo. You wanted to make that the title of the thumbnail. I would have agreed with you at this point in time too, and they ended up doing it again, which we'll talk about. But going into this game, let's just talk about the Cole Caulfield goal and the way that he scored.
Yeah.
Justin Hall, how big is he? 6'1", 6'2", and Cole Caulfield is 5'8"?
Yeah, and that one's very, very hard to watch the highlight on. Again, is it a surprise? No, like it's Justin Hall. It's just that's just where we're at, and it just goes to show you where the team's at, and it should level set expectations. That's what it should do. I don't think it does to the majority of Rings fans, but that should be the highlighted and underlined moment that level sets people's expectations of this team, and why we're talking about, and why the whole theme around today is talking about the Wings being eliminated. It's little things. That is a little thing that happened, but happens way too much in a season. And when little things like that, and yes, I'm talking about Justin Hall's miss, I don't even know what to call it, with Cole Caulfield. Little things like that add up, and it brings us to the whole, again, back to the main topic of, eliminated from playoffs. So frustrating, annoying. It's repetitive. It's high frequency. It just is what it is. And back to you, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just talking about how important going into this game was, the Red Wings needed to win this game in order to help their chances of making the playoffs. And unfortunately, losing, that set themselves back. But even looking at this year's series between the two teams, they only played 4 games against each other. And in those 4 games, Montreal Canadiens beat the Red Wings 3 of the 4 times. The Canadiens, the first time, it was on December 20th, right before the firing of Derek Lalonde. The Red Wings lose 4-3. Then you lose 5-1, literally the next day.
Yeah, back to back.
Again, then you beat them 4-2 January 23rd when the Red Wings decided to go on that really nice hot streak, the 7-game hot streak. It was right around then. Then when it all finally came down to it and it mattered the most, you fumbled. You lost.
Man.
You absolutely lost it. And that was so frustrating, especially when, like I said, you saw Dylan Larkin score that first goal, and we were very hypercritical about him. We have been for some time. We don't know if it's an injury, what's going on. I'm assuming it's an injury with him, but the whole entire team, look at this, 4 unanswered goals. You gave up 2 empty netters. I get that, but I mean, I can't put the blame on goaltending in this game. People are going to pick and choose what they want to blame on, Carlo. It's an all-around team effort at this point. I get that there's really bad players on this team, but I don't think everyone showed up.
The most frustrating part for me is to go out there the first period, excuse me, and throw 23 shots on net to Montreal's 4. And only walk out of that period with 1 goal.
Yep, I didn't even touch on that. Good point right there. Yeah, you just fell down from there. Even look at the third. What happened?
It again, I talked about it. I can't remember if it was last week's episode or 2 weeks ago. It's this team needed to decide what type of team they were for 60 minutes. They decided what type of team they were for 20 minutes, but I don't know what it is, dude. I don't know if it's just the lack of mental toughness, physical toughness. I really don't know what it is, but to go out there against Montreal and put out that crazy, phenomenal, impressive first period, to come out and put out 9 shots in the second, 4 shots in the third, that is just so frustrating to watch as a fan. Like, I just don't have words for that.
Yeah, what really lost the momentum for the Red Wings in this game, Carlo, just to highlight it to me personally, was those 2 penalty kills that you gave up, in the second period. Really, it was kind of early, not really. There was the one with Simon Edvinsson, and then there was the other one before that. Simon Edvinsson had the delay of game penalty.
Yeah.
The Red Wings were on back-to-back penalty kills, and I think that really solidified it for them and made them lose.
It's tough, though, because when you kill back-to-backs, which they did, that also brings momentum to the boys, man. Like, at least you would think.
Yeah, you killed them. And typically I thought that they weren't going to kill them, but they did. And you're right. You'd think you would be able to carry that momentum, but apparently not. Right? I mean, that just goes to show you that the players that you have on the PK, and then it's always like, I'm going to say Justin Hall again because Justin Hall plays on the PK too. It's the same thing, right? You have players in situations that they shouldn't be in. They're playing above their skill level. And so it comes down to the depth again overall, right? And so I know people don't like it when some people make these suggestions, but yeah, if you can go out and get someone who is a legit top 6 player, and then you want to add a Nate Danielson on your team and you want to put him on the 4th line because that's better depth than whatever, or same situation with defense, yeah, you should probably do that if that's going to make your team better, instead of having players like Justin Hall and all these other players that aren't doing anything, right? And that's why I would say that. I don't want Nate Danielson or any of these young prospects to play on the 4th line by any means, but Marco Kasper, he started out on the 4th line, and now we've seen him play on the top line and the 2nd line. So I'm nitpicking at this point, Carlo, at the end of this game, but it was just brutal, and this costed you your playoffs. There's definitely other points in the season that costed you, but this ultimately was the dagger for the Red Wings. True or false?
100%. There's no other dagger. I mean, and the reason you can talk about Lalonde and if he was fired 2 weeks earlier, does this change the outcome? Maybe, but he wasn't. You can only control what you can control, and it was this game. It came down to this game, man. And they, like you put it, man, they fumbled it, and they fumbled it bad. Like you put 23 shots on net, you only walk out with one goal. Whoa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's number one. And then number two,
Yeah.
you kill those two penalties midway point of the second period. Midway point, you kill those two penalties. You don't get any fire from that. You don't get any boost from that. Concerning. That just, again, level sets, at least it should, level set the expectations of the 24-25 Detroit Red Wings. It really should.
Well, Carlo, it's not PTSD. It slightly is. We're going to talk about the Florida Kitty Cats, and this time it flip-flopped on us where the Red Wings lose 4-1 in a, I guess, Red Wings fashion, where it's the Detroit Red Wings first periods, as you like to call them. You have Alex DeBrincat getting his 36th goal. That's it. 4 unanswered goal, very similar fashion to Montreal, except you didn't put up 23 shots in the first period. You somehow made it somewhat even in the second. But it's the same thing. They came out very strong in the first. I thought they actually looked very well. They played to the pace of the Florida Panthers, who had most of their players back compared to the last time that they played them. Right. So, but a few missing. Brad Marchand getting his first with the Florida Panthers.
Yeah,
I guess just to highlight that, because I
of course he did against Detroit.
I can appreciate how good of a player Brad Marchand is, but I still think he's a weirdo for licking people in the face.
Yeah, I can't believe he did that.
Carlo, I really don't know what to say about this game. It's just a really bad game, and it just carbon copy of the game prior. You got heavily out hit too. Where's no identity? This team didn't want to show up again this game, where you still technically had a shot to make the playoffs if you truly wanted to.
Yeah.
And you did yourself no favors once again.
Yep.
So goods and bads of this game, if you want to go over them real quick.
Goods? I don't know. Larkin's on the score sheet with an assist. So it's nice to see him kind of get consecutive contributions, because I know he did score against Montreal too, right? So in the first period, the bads for me, man, is it's the usual suspects opening up the scoring, typically scoring first, and then it's just dead silence from there. The one shock to me is Lucas Raymond being off the score sheet as much as he has. And I'm talking about goals, because I know he's got a crazy amount of assists, and he's having a pretty good season, a very good season, with kind of being the setup man, so to speak, because of his ways, his diversions, and the way he can, make a player think he's going one way, but he's passing it another way. Can't take that away from him, man. He's talented at that, but where's the scoring from Lucas Raymond? Like, it's just that hurts, and I think that plays a big factor into this team not being able to score more than 1 or 2 goals, man. You go back to last season, Lucas Raymond was all over the score sheet. Like, we were talking about, he's unlocking clutch mode, and the growth he was on, and just to see him go silent, it hurt the team. I'm not going to put that on him. He's still a young kid, man, but like, right. It's just crazy to see, one thing one season, especially at the end of the season when things mattered, and you're playing right down to the last literal period of the regular season. That's not the case this year. What's the similarities or the non-similarities? Well, Lucas Raymond was playing out of his mind last season. This season, he's not. Or maybe he's banged up too. We don't know, and I'm sure we'll find out later on. But it's that's kind of the bads for me. The goods, I really don't have any goods from this game, man. I don't know if you do, but nothing really clicking on the power play. I mean, they were still technically in it, and they played la-di-da hockey. So I don't really have anything good. I don't have anything good out of that, man.
Yeah, just Alex DeBrincat getting number 36, very close to 40. Maybe there is still a shot. Maybe the Red Wings will be nice and say, let's try to get him a hat trick this game and get him closer to 40. Maybe he's got like a bonus in his contract somewhere if he gets 40. That would be sick for him. But I guess just to slightly touch on Lucas Raymond. Yeah, I mean, Carlo, he's definitely beaten the points that he got last season. This point total, he's got 75 last season. He got 72, but he's going to fall short in the goal category. He had 31 last season. This year he has 26. He's on pace to get one more and finish out with 78 points in 82 games. Can you say that he even got better? I would say, to me, to answer that question, I would say yes, technically. It's just down the stretch is the difference this season compared to last season. Like you said, he was very clutch last season, and he's gone a little quiet down the stretch. So yeah, it's a big, important piece missing right there for you. So, but what do you think? Did he improve compared to last season, or do you think he kind of just had similar season?
I think he got experience. I mean, so yeah, I think he improved. He got a year older, which is great because it hopefully changes, his outlook on different things at different times of the year. And I'm sure it would. I would hope it would. But, did he get better? Okay, he's got some assists, but I mean, there's two people that get tagged for assists. There's only one person that scores. I'd much rather take the goals, especially when they count. That's just me. So did he get better? I don't know. I really don't know, Zach. I think he got a year older. I think he's got some experience. That's much needed experience. I'm sure he's not thrilled, where they're at right now. I'm sure he's stinging a little bit, which is good. That's part of experience. That's part of growing. That's part of getting better after a year. So yeah, did he get better? Maybe he did. I just wish it came in the fashion of goals and keeping this team competitive within games. Because boy, oh boy, man, you got Larkin scoring in the first period. It would be nice if Raymond came and followed up in the same period. You got Alex DeBrincat breaking open the scoring. It'd be nice if Raymond followed up and made it 2-0 going into the second period. I mean, that's big. It just wasn't the case this year. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a long rant on did he get better? Sure. Just wish there were more goals.
In the last 24 games since the Four Nations, Lucas Raymond has only put up 15 points.
What about Larkin?
So, yeah, Dylan Larkin, 16 points in his last 24 games. So, I mean, those are still decent numbers. I'm not going to say that those are the greatest, obviously. You want them to be closer to point-per-game players, right? But a lot of people, I will say, Carlo, that Four Nations probably did more harm than it did good for a lot of these teams. I mean, like, you can look at Brady Tkachuk, Matt Tkachuk. I'm sure there's a lot of Canadian players you could say the same thing for. Lucas Raymond, probably some Swedish players too. There's a lot of players that definitely did not so much benefit from the Four Nations or their organizations that they play for, but maybe their nations did. Maybe some players do think of it as a win, but for the Detroit Red Wings in this scenario, because they're not going to be in the playoffs and get these players back, they unfortunately had to force them to play. And so like someone like Dylan Larkin, while it may not be an injury that forces him not to be able to play, it could still be an injury where we absolutely still need you to play, even if it's just two-way defense, so to say, right? And like minimal offense. That very well could be it for both Larkin and for Raymond. But also, I want to make this point too. Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond have consistently all throughout the season have had a different line mate up on that top line, whether if that's Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane, Marco Kasper, Michael Rasmussen. We just found out Jonathan Berggren's practicing on that top line. We have all these different players coming in and out, and so that could be a testament to that too. Lucas Raymond's now on the second line too, so he's kind of been moved around. But also at the very beginning, Derek Lalonde did absolutely no one any favors, but Lucas Raymond was still at that point the highest point getter for this Detroit Red Wings team at that time. So long rant definitely on Lucas Raymond. I don't think we intended for that, but still a good talk. We'll definitely talk about that in the offseason as well. Carlo, this was probably the best game of the week so far because honestly, I was very shocked that the Red Wings won. You know what happens in a back-to-back, especially against two powerhouse teams like the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? But yeah, you started off this game, Red Wings going down. I was like, all right, that's it. And you even had Craig Smith up on the top line. That's another player that we forgot to mention.
I couldn't believe that. Could not believe that decision.
I even said it in our group chat. I was like, you know what? It is what it is at this point. The Red Wings should, they're just going to keep losing. Better draft position. It is what it is. But they had other plans, Carlo, because you had Patrick Kane getting a goal. It should have been Marco Kasper's assist. He should have had a 3-point night. And let's just talk about it. Marco Kasper, he was the reason why we won this game. Not only did he get the game-tying goal, he got the OT winning goal as well. Shout out to Patrick Kane for a 2-point night as well. That's pretty sick too. And Marco Kasper with that OT goal that was unassisted. And boy, That was quite the shock, Carlo. I think we got ourselves a 2C on our hands finally there, my boy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's fair to talk like that, man. I think he's doing he's earning it, man. Like he's playing so well, and he is starting to get into kind of that territory that Raymond got into last season, man, where he's pushing the pace, he's calling game, and he's just playing well, and he's making players around him better too. I mean, he's just very impressive. He's had a very good year. He came in not on opening night roster, waited, got his opportunity, and never looked back, which that is super exciting. And then to see how he handled the little things thrown at him since he came on and to where we are today, I don't think he's had a bad game. Like I think he's made a couple, little erroneous things here and there that you would imagine a rookie's going to do, and you would be okay with a rookie doing. But for the most part, Zach, I really don't think Casper's had a bad game.
No, I don't think I could pick out a game where I'd say he absolutely sucked that game, but we will say that, I mean, it was one post-game press conference, or maybe it was even before a game. It might have been just when they were practicing and everything, post-practice press conference. McClellan even came out and said, yeah, I had to have a talk with Marco Casper. I didn't think he had a really good game last game, and that's okay. And do you know what he ended up doing? He rebounded from that and had basically a 3-point night in this game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It should have been a 3-point night. I don't know why they didn't give him that assist. That's bogus. But Carlo, yeah, to your point, he's sixth in the team in points currently with 34 in 74 games played with 18 goals, 16 assists this season. He's also just a -1.
Yep. See what I mean? Like, yeah. He's ferocious, man. Casper's he's a great player. He's a dog. Casper's a dog. He's shown that. He especially shown that against Tampa. And yeah, he's for me, I don't see a reason why he cannot continue as the Detroit Red Wings 2C. I really don't. I don't see why not.
Yeah, Carla, we even posted the post-game comments from McClellan talking about they were some very, very strong, encouraging words about the young forward Marco Casper and his impact on the team since he came on board, replacing Derek Lalonde back in late December. Since the replacement, Marco Casper has put up 16 goals, the 11 assists, 27 points in the 45 games played since that posting, which was on Friday night. So yeah, Tom McClellan, I mean, he even said in this video, if you guys haven't seen it, it is on our Instagram, it is on our Twitter, where McClellan now has certain expectations on someone like Marco Casper to continuously be better game in and game out, and then wants him to be, I guess so to say, a line driver for that second line moving forward. Sophomore slumps, they happen all the time. Can we see that happen with a Marco Casper?
Well, of course we can see that happen. I think you can see that happen with anybody, but Casper's different, dude. He's got that dog in him. Like I just finished saying, like I see that dog in him every single game. I would be surprised if he had a slump. Like I think he's gonna keep working hard and get rewarded for his efforts, man. So I don't know. That's a great question, and I'm very curious to see how that pans out for him and the Red Wings next season, because like I said, man, that kid's a workhorse, so we'll see.
And I'm not really trying to jump ahead. This is just a question that popped in my head as we are talking about this. Because we now have Marco Casper more than likely going into next season, I would be willing to bet that he is opening night roster next season. He is the number 2C, not Cop, not Comfer. You look at the wingers currently for the Red Wings, so it's Lucas Raymond, and especially looking at next season, you don't have Kane. Lucas Raymond, Alex DeBrincat. That's kind of essentially it for top 6 wingers, right? So you have to make sure that you're setting up Marco Casper for success to make sure that he doesn't have that sophomore slump. But also, like I said, where McClellan said potentially he could be a line driver, do you go out and get him someone to be a winger that can help him moving forward next season and even just moving forward for this team? Or do you think that's someone in the organization? Is that Soda? Could that be Mazer? Where are you going to find the help to put on that second line for Marco Casper?
Well, it could be Soda. Speaking of Soda, real quick, he's been shut down for the remainder of the season. Just seeing that news break, but anyways,
Breaking news.
it could be Soda, yes, but that still leaves a hole for Larkin because Larkin needs some help too. So, I mean, you addressed 2 wingers in the top 6. We need 4.
I mean, it's just like how I said earlier. It's all about the depth. Yeah, can you have Lucas Raymond and Alex DeBrincat on the top line? But then it goes back to it. They could play on the second line, and that's a really good second line of Alex DeBrincat.
Yep.
Marco Kasper, Lucas Raymond. So then to your point, yeah, what do we do for the top line then? There is a glaring hole there in that top 6. Could it be the prospects upcoming? It could be. But clearly Steve isn't there yet to insert him in there, and that's okay. But how are you going to address it, Carlo? I guess is the question once again.
Well, I think it's got to be addressed with the offseason, man. July 1. There needs to be some aggressive decisions being made here to identify the gaps in this team. Listen, I said it before. The Detroit Red Wings are 2 top 6 players away and 2 top 4 D-man away from being a competitive playoff team. Not a competitive wild card chasing team, a competitive playoff team, a team that can get into the playoffs and potentially go on a bit of a run. Now, easier said than done, of course, and it's way easier said than done to go and address 4 big holes. Dude, 2 top 6 forwards and 2 top 4 D-men, that's a lot to address. Don't expect that to happen in one offseason either, folks, because it's just not going to happen. There's 32 other teams trying to do maybe similar things or just trying to improve their top 4 D and their top 6 forward group. So I don't think that's going to be addressed in one offseason. I think the next 2 off seasons is where those holes get addressed. Been saying it now for weeks, whether it be on the pod or online. The next 2 off seasons are the most critical off seasons for Steve Yzerman to address exactly what I just laid out. And that's what I'm expecting him to do. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm expecting those 4 holes to be identified and addressed because they need to be. It's just too glaring. We're going to be running around in a hamster wheel if those things aren't addressed.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. I'm right there with you. I do see a potential where you get at least one of those. I don't think you can get all of that
in one off season.
In just one offseason,
no,
correct? So if you can do at least one of those, if you can get one top 4D, if you can get a top 6 player this offseason, yeah, do that. And then you try to fill the rest as you continue along, because I do think there is space where you can start doing that a little bit, but don't overpay, obviously. That's song and dance about it, right? Don't overpay, don't overturn. But if it's someone like Mitch Marner, then yeah, absolutely do it. But the tier from that, Carlo, it drops when you start looking at that free agency pool. Yes. When we started talking about it a month or 2 months ago, even, there were a lot more names. A lot of them got signed up.
Mm-hmm.
And as we continue along, they're going to continue getting signed up because teams don't want to lose those players. It's just like how Ken Holland wanted to keep all those good players way back in the day that weren't so much anymore, and he had to re-sign them because he was afraid to lose them. That's how a lot of GMs feel nowadays. They're afraid to lose their players, and they keep them and sign them to really bad contracts, so to say. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, though. All right, Carlo, let's go ahead and do the lovely transition that you just gave us here and talk about some of Steve Yzerman's, I guess, more recent signings, at least the ones under his tenure. And we're going to talk about some obviously well-named players that Detroit Red Wings fans just can't seem to get them out of their mouths for whatever reason, because of obvious reasons, I guess I should say. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about them. First, where you have pulled up Andrew Kopp and JT Compher. And we wanted to make these graphics because a lot of Red Wings fans lately have been talking about how if it weren't for Steve Yzerman and these bad contracts that he signed, and if he went out and got some of the better players, then the Red Wings would be in playoff situations, and the Red Wings wouldn't be stuck and be not in the playoffs for the last 9 years, and their prospects aren't doing very well. All this other stuff that people have been saying. So Carlo and I took it upon ourselves to create this lovely graphic showing Steve Yzerman's free agent signings. So we highlighted Andrew Kopp here, 5 by $5.625 million. Total worth $28.125 million versus who you potentially could have had. Carlo, we did get some people giving us some tips on these, to the credit from them. JT Miller, he was technically re-signed. He got traded, then
Yep.
re-signed with that team
And
he
then
got
Robert
traded
Thomas.
to in the middle of that season. So Dylan Strome or Robert Thomas, he was actually a restricted free agent, but it still technically counts because that is there, right? That could have been an option that you could have what is it that you could have done? Offer sheeted, right? At that point in time. So it's still there technically.
Which you're not going to do in 2020. What was it, 22 when Kopp got signed?
2022.
The Red Wings are in no position to offer sheet anybody and give up all those picks and all those futures and everything. Like you're not doing that. You want to talk about Yzerman getting fired? It's doing stuff like that that's going to get you fired.
So for the people that are just listening, I'll break this down for you guys. I went over Andrew Kopp. So the players on this list are Trocheck, who signed with the New York Rangers. This is in the year 2022, mind you, people. The Red Wings came off of a not so great season, right? Mm-hmm. So and he signed for, it was 2 years. We clearly messed up on Trocheck's numbers there, but going down the list, JT Miller, he signed 7 by $8 million. You're not going out and signing a 2C for that much money. Dylan Larkin got little more than what JT Miller got. Then you got Kadri, 7 by 7. Again, you're not signing a 2C for that much on a really bad Red Wings team. Dylan Strome, that's the one you probably could have stomached the most at 1 by $3.5 million. Ryan Strome even $5 by $5 million. Then Robert Thomas, obviously RFA, 8 by $8.25 million for $65 million.
Quick update on Trocheck, by the way, it's a 7-year deal. So the total is actually correct. It's just instead of being a 2, it should be a 7.
We goofed. That's our fault. No one called that out,
but still, nonetheless,
they probably knew.
Do you want Trocheck for 7 years at 5.625?
The same amount, right? For 2 more years. I mean, I showed you guys the numbers. I think Trocheck versus Kopp. Trocheck has like 60 or 70 more points to date than Andrew Kopp has right now. So Andrew Kopp hasn't even hit 100 points with the Detroit Red Wings in his tenure.
Yeah. So like, listen, at the end of the day, like I don't even put too much stock into the money. Right. You have to a little bit, but you got to look at where the Detroit Red Wings were in 2022. And you got to look at where all the teams, the signing teams for this list of players, where they were, in 2022. And then you need to ask yourself, are these players picking, for example, we'll take Trocheck. Are you picking the Rangers or are you picking the 2022 Detroit Red Wings? And you go down the list and you do that for every single one of these players. And sure, there's more. You can go and find more. Listen, the 2022 Detroit Red Wings were just not a desirable destination. That's not a secret to anybody. I mean, we lived through it as fans. We lived through watching the Wings in 2022. It was not fun. Like, it wasn't a great time. So the whole point of this exercise was, you want to call out the money, the monies and how much people are making, but it's more about the teams they chose to sign with. And whether or not, Stevie Yzerman even called and picked him up. I just called him Yzerman. It even depends on if Steve called him and said, hey, do you want to come play for the Detroit Red Wings? He might not have even done that because he knew he was going to be priced out. And, the one thing you're probably going to get to too, Zach, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is take a look at the dollar figure that Yzerman stayed below.
Yep.
When it came to his free agents. That matters to us this season with Raymond and Seider getting those long-term deals.
Yeah. And I asked you when I was creating that list, I was like, do you see a common theme with these players that we selected versus who we left on the table, right? And I guess we can touch on that once we go through all these players. But yeah, I mean, looking at this list, I mean, Trocheck definitely would have been better than Andrew Kopp, right? In hindsight, for 2 more years longer. So you would have Andrew Kopp's contract ends in 26-27, so you would have had Vincent Trocheck until 28-29. Yeah, it would have been better, but you got to remember, in 2022, that was a New York Rangers team who had Andrew Kopp on there, who also had Patrick Kane that they traded for. And then some other players too, I believe. I think they had Tarasenko on that team too that they traded for. They were trying to go for a massive cup run that
was
year.
In 22 or 23. Can't remember.
Yeah, so whoever remembers, if I'm right or whatever year it
They
was,
loaded
let us know
up.
down in the
They
comments.
were loading up.
Either way, it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly right. And so that's why Trocheck then went and signed with them, right? So it's just one of those things, like Carlos said. A lot of these players, they probably never even had Detroit as a mind and thought, right? Like, there's just no way, to me personally, Carlo. I don't think so. But once again, to me personally, Dylan Strome probably would have been the player I would have tried and gone after, especially for the Red Wings, where you still technically could have stayed at the bottom still and taken the risk on someone like Dylan Strome. You had nothing to lose at
I
that. And
agree.
so that's the only nitpick at there, right? And so
Totally
let's just
agree.
go over to the next one that we have here covering JT Compher at 5 by $5.1 million, 25.5 overall, versus Ryan O'Reilly signing with Nashville at 4 by 4.5. Max Domi signing with Toronto at 1 by 3. He did end up signing an extension, doing 4 by 3.75, got a little pay grade, and then got some extra term on that as well. Eric Holla signing with New Jersey Devils, 3 by 3.15. Alex Kerfoot signing with Toronto, 2 by 3.5. And then Alex Rodriguez signing with Colorado at 4 by $3 million, Carlo. You probably could have gone with, I mean, for me, I guess Ryan O'Reilly, because of his veteran leadership and the things that he has been in the past. And he's been around the league. You know, that this is probably the only player I would have clicked, but
he's the only true centerman too, right? Keep in mind, like, this one was interesting because JT Compher was signed to address a need. A center need with this organization.
Coming off a cup win with Colorado.
Correct. And I'll be honest with you, when he was signed, I was pretty excited. I'm not even going to lie.
I think a lot of people were.
Yeah.
Especially after a really bad first season with Andrew Kopp. The expectation wasn't there, and a lot of fans probably thought, okay, here's your replacement for Andrew Kopp for a true 2C.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't really pan out the way I don't think anybody anticipated it to. But again, this one was difficult because you look at a lot of comparables. There really was not a lot of centermen out there outside of Ryan O'Reilly. Everybody else was kind of a mixed bag of tricks here with playing a little bit of wing and a little bit of center. So, you know, and then you look at the list of players. I mean, the one that I would have liked, although I don't know how much time he spent in the center position, is Evan Rodriguez, who's playing for Florida now. And he looks great on Florida.
Doing well. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the guy
with Colorado too.
What's that?
He was really good with Colorado too.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, Colorado had to make a move, but I think it benefited both teams when that move was made when he was a part of it. So yeah, absolutely. He's the one for me that I would have loved us to get. Obviously, I mean, the deal is a lot more appetizing. And I think Rodriguez as a player has grown to be a lot more appetizing as well. So for me, that's the guy that I probably would have highlighted and circled. But again, I don't know how much time he truly spent as a true center like JT Compher has. So that's the only part I don't know. So folks, drop a line, keep us honest, throw it down, and let us know what you know about Evan Rodriguez playing in the center position primarily.
Or any of these players, really, because all these other players outside of O'Reilly, you know, they all have the winger mark on them too. So yeah, let us know true to their positions if they actually do play center with these current teams or with their new teams now. But Carlo, one thing I do want to highlight is that when we got both Andrew Kopp and JT Compher, the Red Wings had next to no center prospects, right? Your next one up was Joe Veleno. You then went and drafted Marco Kasper in 23. And he wasn't going to make the jump right away. He finally made the full jump this season. So, and I always like to say this, to me personally, I don't think Steve Yzerman actually thought, and I'm not saying he thought that Marco Kasper wasn't going to be a good player. He maybe didn't think that Marco Kasper was going to be quite as ready as he is now.
Yep.
And that kind of came down to it, right? And so now you're kind of just stuck waiting where it's either I got to wait for Andrew Kopp and JT Compher's contracts to end, or I got to figure out to work around them now. I don't think you buy them out. I do think there is capacity where you could trade these guys and get minimal back. I know you don't think so. I still do. But it's going to be tough no matter what, regardless. So that's kind of my basis behind it. I think Steve didn't really know what he was going to get. And that's part of it. GMs don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
What free agency you're going to get or what players you're going to draft. That it just all especially in the draft, dude, it kind of just falls on your lap. Same thing with free agency. You truly never know what's going to happen. And then even talking about that Ken Holland video, Ken Holland always says, true big name players and players that make a difference, that can come in with a magic wand, which never happens and fixes everything. Players like those don't go in free agency. You know what the players are that are in free agency? The secondary plug players. It was kind of exactly those words that he used for that scenario, Carlo. Right? So
he's not wrong, man. The guy's been, listen, you can give Kenny his grief for his drafting, his last 4 or 5 years, whatever it was. But when it comes to the understanding of the game and how to manage a team, you can't take that away from him for the most part. When he talks and he uses those words, especially in that video, it makes a lot of sense because he's right. He's bang on. You're not finding those guys, in free agency. Teams you got to think, like, if you want these guys that bad, there's a reason. And that reason is going to be the same reason that the team that currently has their rights is going to work their butts off to re-sign them. That's just the reality of it.
Exactly.
So, that's just what it is. But, JT Compher, you mentioned about the trade. I don't think, first of all, I think Andrew Kopp should stay on, just to wrap up the Kopp and Compher before we move on to the defenseman here. Kopp, I'd like for him to honestly ride out the remainder of his deal. I really would, because under Todd McClellan, before he got injured, he was starting to look, he was playing a little bit different and he was starting to look pretty good. I hope that can be the same, but on the third line, because, mind you, he was centering DeBrincat and Kane when he was starting to play well. So I hope he can, translate that onto the third line. But JT Compher, depending on, you're looking at potentially, like I look at JT Compher, and this is where I think, is he just getting in the way of Nate Danielson right now, if Nate Danielson's ready to make the jump?
Yep.
And at that point, do you look at trading Compher? And I think you can trade Compher. You can, I don't know, we'll get into kind of the rosters that we've both created. And one of mine, I will say now, just as a little teaser, it does have a scenario where Compher got traded in order to make everything work, for the cap and everything like that. I'm not going to give much more away. We'll get into that one, I don't know, probably next week. But I can see a world where Compher does get traded. And I think it should start to be a realistic question within the management group of the Red Wings, because now you're looking at it as, if Danielson's ready to make the jump, Compher's the one standing in his way. Is that the case? That's what we, I guess, are discussing, right? Anyways, let's get into the defense, folks.
Yep. So here we have the overnight assassin, OT Benny Sherratt, back in 2022, signing a 4x$4.75 million deal, a collective whole of $19 million once this contract is said and done before taxes, versus Ian Cole signing with Tampa Bay at $1x$3 million. Then you got John Klingberg signing with Anaheim, another 1 year, but by $7 million. Nikita Zadorov signing with Calgary at $2x$3.75 million. Chris Letang signing with the Pittsburgh Penguins, just continuously signing with them at $6x$6.1 million. That contract, I don't think anyone was going to come close to that for an aging guy quite like him. Alex Edler, I believe that's who that is. Yeah, Alex Edler with the LA Kings, $1x$750,000. And then Brett Kulak signing with Edmonton, $4x$2.75 million. Carlo, I guess I'll start. Zadorov or Cole, honestly. Year 2022, looking back at it again, you had nothing to lose with taking on a risky contract with minimal term on it. That's just my thought on it. But out of this list, I think Ben Sherratt is fine. Your thoughts?
Out of this list, I too think Ben Sherratt is fine. And this, we'll get into it in a minute. Let's talk about the next one before we kind of get into it. But no, I mean, the only one I was interested in, to be honest with you, was Edler. A little bit, I think. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, the thing is with Edler, I don't even think he's not even playing anymore, right? So
I'll just say it again. I mean, this is 2022. You had nothing to lose. I don't think you could have gone with Edler. I would have been fine. You're only spending $750K on a guy, and you're forcing him to play top pair. Remember, you got Ben Sherrod because you needed to pair someone with Sider. I guess looking at it,
Yeah, no, forget that. I don't look at Edler at all. The guy's old. He's not even playing anymore.
There's Carlo
Scrap
looking at the
that.
camera like, scratch that. No, don't listen to
Yeah.
me. So I guess you got to look at that from that perspective, Carlo. Who of these options would have been the best option for Sider at that time?
It's not
Probably
only that,
Ben
dude.
Sherrod.
It is, dude, because you got to think like Ben was the one who was accepting of a 4-year deal, which is again like he's just plugging the hole until the real Yzer plan is ready to come through.
And it's
That's
not
what
like you
this
could have
is.
traded for anyone else anyways, because you didn't have anything to freaking trade away to get
You
someone.
had 0 assets. The cupboard was still bone dry, and the players that you just took over the course of the last 2 drafts, you were not moving. And there's nothing else to talk about or move in terms of picks or prospects or anything. We needed the picks still at this time. So, yeah, I'm taking Ben Sherrod here, dude. All day.
I can't remember, Carlo, but I'm going to make the call out. I don't remember if it was this year with Ben Sherrod or if it was the year with Justin Hall. We could have re-signed Nick Leddy to a 4x4. Would you have done that?
We could have. I think you're right about that. Who? But
We
I don't know
traded
how
him
much Leddy
to
got signed
St.
for.
Louis for a second, and
Yeah.
they signed him.
Yeah, and how much did he sign for?
4x4.
He signed a 4x4?
4x4.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Leddy's playing top pair, right? This is not me saying Ben Sherrod should be playing top pair.
Careful how you say
But
it, Carlo.
just looking at ice time and whatnot. But anyways, yeah, that's an interesting comparison for sure.
Yeah, just wanted to toss that out there. Yeah, let's go over to Justin Hall, who is making 3 years, $3.4 million, overall $10.2 million. I mean, this is a guy, Carlo, who was the top pair in Toronto. You thought maybe you could bring him in and be a decent third pair for the Red Wings. Holy hell, no chance in hell.
No.
That was not the case. So going to the verses, you had Dmitry Orlov. That's probably the one I would have liked to have seen just right out the gate, 2 by 7.75. Matt Dumba, 1 by 3. That's another one I probably would have been fine with. Honestly, I'm just going to say all these players I would have been fine over Justin Hall, to be honest. But you got Graves here with Pittsburgh, 6 by 4.5. Maybe not that one. Scott Mayfield, maybe not this one either. 7 by 3.5 with the New York Islanders. Yikes. Luke Shen, 3 by 2.75 with Winnipeg, and then Klingberg, another 1-year deal, but with Toronto this time at 4.15. Carlo, I can see it now. We did just post these, the defenseman one. We can see it now that everyone who comments and replies is going to say, I would have taken anyone on this list over Justin Hall. I'm just going to ask, would you agree on that?
But who? Who would you have taken? Like you talk about Orlov. We don't have the money to give Orlov what he got offered in Carolina. We don't have that money because it's going to dip into an impact Sider, Raymond. That money doesn't exist. Like you got to remember, I think Steve Yzerman, I don't think he went into any of these free agent signings with, I want Ben Sherrod, I want Justin Hall. Exactly. I think he went into this with, I have $3.4 million to give somebody for 3 years. Who's realistically going to take that offer? Yep. And Justin Hall did. And he did that with every single free agent signing. That's at least my opinion on how he went into this, because he had to go into it like that. He really did.
He had a budget every offseason. He had a budget on how much he could spend per player. He knew how many players he needed to sign, and he had to separate that. And going back to what we were talking about, Carlo, the thing that I asked you, was there a theme that you noticed on the players that he signed versus who he could have signed? All the players that he signed that we listed on here all came in under $5.75 million. Is that a shocker to you? No, none whatsoever. And all the players that you would have liked to have had came in well over $6 million.
Exactly, well, dude. Over. He typecasted, in a way, the free agents that he could realistically get. And this is not about Chris Ilitch not approving the dollar figure. This has nothing to do with that. This is the fact that Yzerman has to go into this very carefully because he drafted unbelievably well. And because he drafted unbelievably well, he needs to save money for those guys when it's time to re-sign. I'll say it again. If he mismanages his free agency, that screws over those RFAs that need contracts. You want to talk about Yzerman getting fired? It's when you mismanage your free agency that then handcuffs you from signing RFAs. Can you imagine if he goes and does a crazy free agent signing and then he has no more money for ASP in 3 years?
They're not in this situation quite yet. Look at the New York Rangers. They went out and got some big name free agents along the years that they did. Now look at them. They're not even going to make the playoffs this year. And they were still able to get top end talent in the draft like Capo Kakao, Alexis Lafreniere. I don't want to be the New York Rangers here in the next 2 to 3 years. And that's where the Red Wings were going to head, to your point, Carlo, like you just mentioned. If we would have went out and got these bigger name players and spent more money thinking Chris Ilitch is too cheap to do it. No, that's not what it is whatsoever. To your point, that's exactly right. Steve Yzerman.
No, it's not, man.
Steve Yzerman, I get what people are saying. Are the prospects taking a long time to get to the spots that we would like them to? Absolutely. But not every player drafted in the first round goes and plays in the NHL within the first 2 years. It's very small group of players. Bedards, McDavids, Crosbys, Ovechkins, Stamkos. I don't even know if Stamkos played after he was drafted in the NHL. I'm just kind of throwing names out now at this point.
Pretty sure he did. No, I know what you're saying.
At. So
absolutely.
It's just very difficult, and people are just being too impatient because our general manager's name is Steve Yzerman, Carlo.
Correct.
And that's the counter argument I will always make when people say you don't want him fired because his last name is Yzerman. Okay? I don't care if his last name is Yzerman. I wouldn't care if his last name was Nicholas Lindstrom or anyone else that's a very prominent figure model in today's world. I really wouldn't care because he came in with a plan, told us what that plan was, said it was going to take time. I listened to him. I'm still staying patient with it. And that's what it comes down to, people. Some people just don't have patience. That's okay. But at the end of the day, Carlo, I had to say this a lot on social media when we talked with a lot of Detroit Red Wings fans. I think they're Red Wings fans. Sometimes I can't tell.
I don't even know if they are. Sure, if you want to call them that, but
at the end of the day, I always have to tell them, no matter what, no matter how much we disagree, whether if you want Yzerman fired or if you don't, if you want this player, if you don't want this player, or if whatever it is, we all want what's best for this team, this organization. It's all for fun. And just to even say it's silly, at the end of the day, Carl, it's just a sport. It's just hockey. I love it, but still, a lot of people take it a little too seriously, I think, sometimes. And it doesn't need to be like that sometimes. You got to have fun with it at the same time.
Dude, you got to have fun in everything, no matter what. You got to have fun. But no, I think you're nailing it down, dude. 100%. People think that you're, Yzerman homers and this and that. It's like, listen, you just got to think a little bit deeper, because the only reason why you lack the patience you do is because his name is Steve Yzerman. And that's the reality of it. This whole exercise was really to show people that there really wasn't many other options you could do. And one thing we didn't really make crystal clear when we posted these was what I just did earlier, in the fact that had you have gone and made those splashy moves or signings in the offseason where you're paying north of, it looks like there was an internal cap set of 5.75 or less for any free agents for those 2 seasons. If you went over that number, impacts Larkin's contract, impacts Raymond's, impacts Siders, and now you don't have those guys locked up for the deals that they're locked up on. So, people talk about a lot, and I think we've even said that Yzerman's free agents have been terrible. His free agent signings have been terrible. Fire the pro scouting, this and that. When I look at these 4 charts, I understand his free agency now. I really do. He set himself an internal cap that he would not budge over. And this was the result of it, because realistically, this is who you could get when you set that internal cap for free agency. This is what we got left with. Go look at the comparison charts. They're all there. There's really nothing else out there that we missed on, in my opinion, that could have made this team better. the good news about these deals, we'll leave it at this before we transition out. They're all over their 50% mark.
Yep. And the other thing
means?
too, I want to make this clear too. Even if you would have got other players on less term, then Steve has to do the same thing all over again. He's got to find players on the cheap enough deals with a short enough term to fit what he's looking for. So he did exactly what he needed to do. He gave himself the time frame. Fortunate enough for him, like I said, Marco Kasper came faster than probably what he expected. Nate Danielson's doing the same thing. ASP's probably doing the same thing. All these prospects are probably doing the same thing, but they're not getting there fast enough, quite like some of these fans want, Carlo. But let's make that transition. I think that's a good point, and let's go over. We did a lot of polls this week, buddy. So let's start with this one. A lot of fans this week. We did this on the 9th. That was 4 days ago. That was on Wednesday. A lot of these happened on Wednesday. There was a lot going on that day. Lots of fans targeting Steve Yzerman and certain players last night after that loss against the Montreal Canadiens and going into that Wednesday morning. Steve gets a lot of flack for his past offseason moves. We just covered all that, Carlo, and we see some wanting to Steve to do something different this upcoming season. What would you rather see Steve do in the offseason, this upcoming offseason? Do minimal in the offseason and allow the young kids to play and flourish, Carlo? Or go out and sign big name free agent players and or trade for them? There were only two options to vote. It's either do minimal and let the kids play, or go out and sign big fish free agents and make big trades. Let's just call it 200 votes. It's 199, 200 votes. 57% of the voters said you should absolutely go out and get big fish free agents, and you should go out and make big trades. Don't do minimal and don't let kids play, Carlo. So, but you look at the comments, I will say there were people that were pretty level-headed and said, do a little both, like this person right here, this person right here. There were a few on there. So two things are not exclusive. You can develop young talent while also trading for impact players now. So yeah, your thoughts on this poll, Carlo? I'm actually pretty shocked at the result.
I thought it would be closer. However, I think if you had the option of both, that would have won by a landslide, because I think that's the answer here.
Correct.
So we let the kids play. Let's break that one down. The kids are currently playing, so on this team today, right now. So are you referring to the Danielsons, the Carter Mazers, and the Amadeus Lombardis as those are? Is that what you're thinking with kids, right?
I would say yes, but even considering players like, well, to be fair, Berggren and Soda are RFAs. They do have to be signed to contracts, but you could even count those guys too. So to answer your question, yes.
Okay. So then I would probably think they're already there. I don't know yet if Danielson's ready to take the jump. We're going to see him play with Grand Rapids in the postseason. That'll be very telling to see where his game's at and where he's at. But albeit, I mean, it really comes down to having a really good training camp, because a lot could happen between now and then in terms of growth and development. So we'll see what happens with training camp. But for me, this offseason, you need to go and get a top 6 forward and a top 4 D-man. That needs to be the objective. Like, it has to be. You need to do that.
Now let's talk about these kids, because they are obviously on our thumbnail and we got to find space to talk about them. But I'm just going to ask a silly question. I don't think you're going to say yes to this question. Maybe for one of them, and we did do a poll on it, but ASP and MBN, they're knocked out of the SHL playoffs. They're coming to North America, Carlo. They should be on their way here pretty soon. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about ASP and MBN, since they are on their way to North America. So welcome, boys. I know ASP has been here in MBN both, but it should be official that they will be at least playing with Grand Rapids Griffins to help them in their playoff run. But we did do a poll. Will they win the Calder Cup this year, Carlo? But I want to ask you, is there a chance that MBN and ASP could be the top 6 and top 4 player that you need next season?
For the Detroit Red Wings?
Yes, sir.
No.
Not even ASP, you don't think?
I think ASP will be in the top 4 in the defense group, but I think you still need one more. You're not putting ASP as the lone top 4 talented player as a rookie, right? So
okay, so that was the question. Yeah, sorry.
So I mean, yes and no, I guess. I mean, like, yeah, he'll be in the top 4. MBN, I don't think he's going to be on the team. I don't think he'll be on the Red Wings roster next season.
All right, Carlo, let's go back to the poll. It's still not done yet, but will they win the Calder Cup this year, do you think, the Grand Rapids Griffins? 70% of the 61 votes so far say yes, they'll win this year, adding an ASP and an MBN. What do you think about that, though?
If I have to answer yes or no, Zach, you're going to make me answer yes or no? I'm going to say no.
I think that they'll do better than last season. They got knocked out of the second round.
Yep.
I think adding ASP, I think even adding Anton Johansson, who has been looking pretty well for them over there. If Kosa can stand on his head and also become a playoff guy. And like you mentioned, you said Nate Danielson. I want to see Carter Mazur. I want to see what ammo actually looks like in playoff action too. Can Emmett Finney continue doing better with the AHL team, right? So there's a lot of question marks that we got to wait and see, but it's going to be interesting to watch their playoff run. I'm definitely going to be keeping a close eye on them because that is insert Squidward on his back in the weird position that he's in, going future. Let's actually highlight Red Wings diehards who actually, I really like this pool. That's the reason why I saved this one. They wanted your voice to be heard, so here it is. If the Red Wings don't make the playoffs next season, Carlo, 40% of the 1,100 voters say Steve Yzerman should be fired. The next group, 31%, we voted, give him till 28-29, the 10-year, which probably seems more likely to happen. But I do think that the Red Wings can make the playoffs next year, to be honest with you. But how would you vote on this poll? I voted for us, obviously, but
for me, it's I'm aligned with the vote that we have selected here, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
100%. And especially having a better understanding of the free agencies, why Steve Yzerman did what he had to do, and what's coming. Now, the only thing we're missing out of that to complete the picture is July 1 of this year. See what happens there.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's a little too soon to actually be for sure, right? So we're just going to have to wait and see. But
that's a great question for like opening night. You know, off season's come and gone. You went and got so-and-so, whatever you did. You signed RFA. You let RFAs walk. Here's the team going into it. Let's see what it's got. Because you got to also look at how many goals you obviously you're acquiring players in free agency and you're signing players. How many goals are they bringing to the team? If it's a forward, even if it's a defenseman, or if it's a top 4 D-man, how many goals are we now keeping out of our net? You got to look at all these things to determine, if they're going to be a better chance at making the playoffs, right? So, I mean, I don't even want to touch those types of questions until we're a week away from next season.
Yeah, for sure. The next poll, Carlo, that we had was, how long does it take to rebuild an NHL team? Because a lot of people seem to think it should only take 3 to 5 years because the Montreal Canadiens were able to do a quick rebuild and make the playoffs quite before we do. But I will say the teams that a lot of people were pointing out, they didn't go into a full-blown rebuild quite like we did. But I will say the counter argument, Steve Yzerman, I don't think took as many gambles, risks, whatever word you want to use, quite like some other GMs did, like the Montreal Canadiens. And I will insert the Sean Monahan situation where they got a first for taking on his bad contract and then traded him, getting another first. That helped him out a little bit there. But in this, Carlo, the 278 votes, 50% of the voters said a true rebuild for an NHL team will take 6 to 9 years. 39%, almost 40% though, said 3 to 6 years, Carlo. Which one surprises you more? Or how do I want to ask this question? Are you surprised that majority said 69, or are you surprised that a good chunk of the voters said it should be shorter and only take 3 to 6 years?
Yeah, that's surprising. 40% of people thinking it takes 3 to 6 years is kind of nuts. I think 6, realistically, if you're good, and I think Steve Yzerman's good, I think it'll be, for him, definitely between 6 and 9, but I don't think he'll see 9. I think it'll be like 6, 7. No, probably 7, 8.
Maybe this poll is a little misleading too. No one really said that, but I will throw this out here. it truly, well, I don't want to say truly, but a good portion of the time, it comes down to who you're drafting too. Do you get a first overall draft pick? Do you have a shot at a McDavid, an Austin Matthews, a Bedard? We didn't get any of that.
Yeah, we got none of
That
that.
doesn't help. And a lot of teams don't get that, right? And so to take this long at the point that we're at, it's really only the end of 6 years for Steve Yzerman, right? Within his rebuild. I don't know how many times we have to say this, Carlo. It didn't start until 2019, the rebuild, right? So it's only year 6.
Listen, I've said this before too, and maybe I'll say it again here. Can you rebuild and tear down at the same time, or do you need to spend a few years, 2 years tearing down before you can even say, okay, now I'm rebuilding?
And that's...
Or do you lump that into the same thing? Do you think tearing down is just kind of a subtitle to the title of rebuilding? Because if there's many ways to take that, right? And there's different perceptions that you can carry with that one. For me, like, I don't care if I'm called a homer on this one, dude. I think he tore down, heavy duty tear down for 2 seasons and then started the building.
I would agree with you that they are not the same. They are 2 different categories. I would say you can even say Ken Holland started the tear down, but not to the extent that Steve did, then started the rebuild. So the tear down took 4. It took 4 years, right? Or
2
however
with Kenny,
long it took.
2 with Stevie.
From the point that we missed the playoffs to when Steve came in, to the 2 years added on top for Steve. Okay. Then that's when the rebuild started. So 5 years of tearing down because of those contracts that Ken Holland put on this team. What was Steve supposed to do for some of them? Right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's if you truly want to talk about it, it's technically been longer for 9 years for the Detroit Red Wings at this point, if you kind of want to look at it that way, because even the last couple of years that we were making the playoffs, you were in the same situation you were in this year and last season, where you were hoping for teams to lose to make it in. I'm pretty sure the last time we made the playoffs, it was that situation where we were hoping for Boston or someone to lose, whatever it was.
Yeah.
At that time. I don't know how I remember that, but I do. But yeah, it's honestly, when you want to truly think about it, Carlo, it's been longer than that. But the rebuilding portion of it, since 2020, 2021, people are going to say we're picking and reaching at this point, Carlo. But to me,
there's like I said, it's perception. It's a perception that we have on this. We're not saying this is gospel. It's just a deeper level of thinking that you can use if you choose to apply to the conversation of how long this is taking Steve Yzerman. But it's more important to ask, why is it taking this long? And I mean, we're laying everything out in terms of, everything he's done up until now. The only thing we haven't touched on is his big ticket free agencies, which we're going to get to. I think we have to be there now this offseason and next offseason. And that's when I think things really start to round out and get expedited. So leave it at that. Take it for what it's worth.
Yep. And good point here, Carlo. When Steve Yzerman came in as the general manager in 2019, when did you, the fan, expect Steve Yzerman to get this team into the playoffs? Even though he told us, he didn't say directly how long it was going to take. He always told us it's going to take a while. It's going to take time. He didn't place a specific number on it, because we've seen in past from past general managers, not from the Red Wings, but other teams, put a timeline on it, and it never worked out well for them, right? Ottawa Senators.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, Carlo, if 227 votes, 55% thought he would get this team in the playoffs in 3 to 6 years.
Yeah, those are 55% of people thinking that Steve Yzerman also wears a cape and his name is Bruce and his last name's Wayne. That's just not the case. Be realistic, man. Be realistic.
This is why it then made me go, or made us, this made us want to go out and find the clip, because I know you guys can probably see the comment down there that Steve Yzerman is the one who said it would take 69 years. That's not true. It was actually Ken Holland who did place a number on it, but said true rebuilds take this amount of time. And we posted that video.
Yeah.
To remind everyone that, and then you obviously get the haters saying, oh, you're just going to listen to this guy who obviously did so bad in the cap era. And it's like, come on, man. Like,
go
the
look
guy
at his
was
resume.
a good general manager. He's seen everything around the block.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So some people, I don't know. Carlo, do you think that there's just a lot of impatient, unreasonable fans out there? And I'm not really trying to call anyone out here, but is that what it is? That people just have too high of expectation because our general manager's last name is Steve Yzerman?
Yes. Short answer, yes. Not getting into a long answer. The answer really just is yes.
Carlo, who do you put most of the blame on for the way that this season went? Do you put it on Yzerman, Lalone, Boner, the players, or mix of all of the above?
Mix of all of the above.
The majority agree with you. Out of 196 votes, 41% agree.
I think that's the right answer. I mean, you look at any team who goes and, snaps off 2 7-game heaters, starts resetting expectations, and then goes a month with playing terrible sport, whatever that sport may be. You ask this question, I think the answer is going to be the same every single time. It's a mix of all of the above all day long. It has to be.
Would you put more on one than the other?
I think, if you're steering me to this answer, then you're doing a great job. But I think you look at Lalonde a lot here. You look at Derek Lalonde a lot here because of the way this team played and responded to his coaching for the first 3 months of the season. I mean, yeah, you kind of have to look at him, and there's probably no surprise that him and Bugner are the second highest ranking on this poll, right?
Which is kind of going back to, I wanted to bring this up earlier, but I didn't. We were asking a lot at the beginning of the season with Lalonde, because I would say when we did this poll, I would have said I would put most of it on Lalonde and Bobner more than Yzerman and the players, because of the way that it went when we fired Lalonde, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that the way that the end of the season is shaping out, Carlo, we're asking, where's Dylan Larkin? Where's X and Y Z player? Where are these guys at? We're going to ask this again, because once McClellan came in, we stopped asking it because they were doing good. Now we're going to ask it again. Where's the leadership amongst the players? It's clearly not the coaching anymore. So does that go back to Lalonde that I think this is a fair question to say. Were we maybe overreacting to saying that Lalonde was the issue to this team? Because we're asking questions about Larkin and Raymond now. I mean, what is it, Carlo?
I don't think we overreacted to Derek Lalonde. I think it was quite evident that he lost the room. And just the way he handled himself post-game practice, like just, lots of the same lingo and lots of the same very vanilla conversation. He lost the room, and I don't even think he knew where to even start to try to get it back. And as a result of that, he just kind of he was just in like an echo chamber, and it was just getting annoying and getting old very, very quickly, and then in comes this new coach. This team shows that they can play amongst the best of them, but then they fall off. Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the players a little bit there. You have to look at the players for sure, and I think you're right on track in calling out where is the leadership within this room. One thing for me that they need to figure out, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't really matter, nobody cares, blah blah blah, about the who's wearing an A or whatever. It's like, listen, you got to figure that out. This team desperately needs to figure out their leadership. And what the identity is. I still don't know what the identity of this team is. I'm not even sure they know what the identity of themselves are. They need to figure it out very, very quickly. I don't know how much turmoil you need to go through as a player in this type of situation to figure it out.
That's a very good call out that I never really thought about making that a topic, and we can save that for a later episode. But even to touch on it, yeah, the rotating A situation, we never really truly discussed that. And you make a really good point where Steve Yzerman as the general manager, why don't you make the executive decision and just make it a staple on someone's jersey instead of swapping around every other game like he has been doing? And that brings up even more of the question, where is the leadership? Is there leadership? Are they really truly trying to figure that out still? If that is the case, oh boy, Carlo, right?
Well, I mean, yes, but
To a certain extent, I should say.
Listen, it's this team is 50% Todd McClellan's, 50% Derek Lalonde's.
Yeah.
Next season, and I'm not trying to keep pushing things off like, oh, you're just pushing it off. Oh, we're going to say this all over again in 2 years. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just thinking. Think with me for a second. This team's 50% Derek Lalonde's, 50% Tom McClellan's. Next season, we come in. Hey, maybe there's a new coach coming in. Maybe there's a new assistant coming in next season. What I'm getting at is next season is 100% Tom McClellan's group, which is very exciting considering what Todd's been able to accomplish in his 50% of having, the helm of this team. Point I'm getting at is when it is 100% Tom McClellan's team, aka training camp, starting with training camp, that's where I think things are going to be level set right from the get-go. And that's where I think that whole leadership gets identified for whatever it's worth. And that's where I think the identity gets set too. Now, the identity piece is going to also come from what is done during this offseason. Keep coming back to that, but that's just the reality of it. So I just wanted to push that in there and push that out there because it matters, man. Like, point I'm getting at is maybe Todd didn't feel that he could just come in and start ripping letters off and putting letters on.
Exactly.
I mean, that's kind of awkward, right? Maybe that's a little bit awkward for anybody to come in and do that. Say, buddy, you've been here for 5 minutes. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
Talk
about losing the room. Like I don't even think that was on his priority list, to be honest with you, Zach.
No.
His priority was to get these guys to play hockey.
Their morale.
He didn't care about a letter. No, I don't think any of them did. But once he's 100% ownership of this team when it comes to the head coach, that's where you're going to start to see some things change. And I'm expecting to see that change. Again, I don't think it's worth that much, but it's still worth something. And I think that stuff needs to be done going into next season when training camp kicks off and when the regular season kicks off. That needs to be identified because it's just so clear that it's missing right now.
Yeah, and going back to it, to a certain extent, I think maybe there should be a worry there. Maybe there shouldn't be, but I will say this. I think that speaks to Lalonde because, like you just said, McClellan didn't want to come in here and just start ripping things apart or doing things, so to say, my way or the highway.
Yeah.
You got to put pressure on Lalonde, too. Lalonde didn't want to solidify anyone with those letters either. So what does that tell you about him as a coach?
Well, you can't put it all on him. I mean, you can definitely shine a light on him, but you also got to kind of play devil's advocate here and say, maybe there wasn't a clear-cut A on the team.
Fair.
Maybe there still isn't. Maybe there is. Maybe it took this season to understand who the clear-cut A's are or who the clear-cut leadership group is. But, I'm not trying to defend Derek Lalonde, but that's a realistic thought that you need to think about is, you got to remember, like, the guys wearing the A's right now. I mean, Patrick Kane, for me, obvious A. There's no doubt about it. Right. Is he coming back? We don't know yet, so we'll see about that. But Lucas Raymond and Mo Seider, everyone's going to say, oh, those guys deserve an A, and you're not wrong. They're kids. They are 22, 23 years old. When this season started, they were 21 and 22. They're young, man. Are they ready to take on a letter and do what's needed to be done when you have that letter on your chest? I don't know. Is it wise to not put them in that position because of how young they are? You don't think that messes with your mind a little bit? They're human beings, man. Yeah, they're hockey players. Cool. They're human beings. Remember that. So this whole team is in a very interesting position, and I think they're still growing. Their identity's growing. Their leadership's growing. Their window is starting to slowly crack open, I think. I know that's hard to hear, but wait till this offseason. Wait till the next offseason. That window's going to be going from not being open to being open. There's a lot of growing pains that come with this stuff. That's one of them. Talking about leadership, Mo and Ray. We'll see what happens next season when Todd, it's his room, 100% his room. We will see what happens. I'm expecting to see what happens there, man. What do you think?
The more we talk about it, the more I remember how when Todd McClellan came in, I think one of the reporters asked him about leadership in the room because, like we said, that was a very prominent question when Lalone was here and he got let go. What's the leadership in the room like? And I'm pretty sure McClellan said something kind of like how you said, these players, nor do I really care who has an A because you don't need an A to be a leader in the room. So,
Doesn't answer the question though, which I can understand him answering it in the way he did
right.
because he was like brand new. I don't think the room has leaders in it. I think they're starting to become leaders and they are starting to learn how to lead.
Well, and there's a reason why. Yeah, there's a reason why Andrew Kopp has the other A solidified, right? Because he's been in the league and has been around the block, right? Where Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider technically have not yet. This is their 4th full season, right? So maybe that's what it comes down to too. I mean, Steve Yzerman, we've heard that many times, or at least we believe that that's the case. That he doesn't like to just hand anything out to young players just because of how good they are, right? You got to earn it no matter what, how good you are. So, yeah, I don't really know how to answer your question. I guess that's my answer for you is whatever Tom McClellan said to us. So, but before we go into our final thoughts, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that happened this week within the Detroit Red Wings sphere or around the league. On Monday, Carlo, Liam Dower-Nilsson, who is a former 5th-round pick in 2021 for the Red Wings, is rumored to be joining HV71 next season in Sweden, which would likely rule out an entry-level contract for him. He is brother of Noah Dower-Nilsson as well. So Noah's the younger one, a little bit better. So Liam, there's a good chance that he does not be a part of the Red Wings organization anymore, which is kind of a little letdown. I thought maybe there was a little potential there for him, but maybe there's still a chance at getting an ALC. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm excited for his brother at the least. On Wednesday, it was announced that Jesse Kiskinen, on Wednesday, Jesse Kiskinen makes his Finnish men's national team debut. I believe he's played in 2 games. He is pointless, but he's getting some shots out there. So as long as he could do that, he's still a very young guy playing amongst men, right? So full-grown men, very veteran-aged men. So congrats to him and good luck to him. So very excited to see if he ends up getting his ELC as well this year. So Carlo, on Thursday, Dmitry Buchelnikov, former 2nd-round pick in 2022, was named to the Russian national team roster as well. So congrats to him. On Thursday as well, I don't think this is the case anymore, so someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but Michael Brandsegg-Nygård was tied for 3rd in SHL playoff goals and was tied for 1st in playoff goals for his team Skellefteå going into the game that night. And then there was one for ASP too. They both just absolutely killed it. To me personally, I know that they weren't point per game players. I didn't expect them to be in the SHL playoffs, but I was very surprised on how well MBN played. He was very physical out there. ASP doing ASP things. Yeah, so
take on like 3 guys at one point.
What's that?
I saw a clip of him taking on like 3 guys, fearless.
Yeah, he was in the nets. So yeah, that's the other thing too is I'll just say this right now. I know it's at the tail end, but Carla, I texted this to you. I'm like, convince me I'm wrong that MBN literally is Marco Casper, but on the wing and maybe just a little bit more physical. I think he likes to absolutely get in the middle of things. He's not afraid to get a little scrappy. And yeah, it was 1 versus 3 in the blue paint right in front of the net. So he's not afraid to shove some snow in guys' faces, give them a little whitewash and get tensions flaring. So good luck on him for doing that.
Part of the process of growing your identity, man. You got players that are willing to do that and have no fear. That's exactly what this team could use right about now.
Looking back at it, you don't have to spend too much time on this question, but I guess I should ask it this way. Were you upset that MBN didn't start with Grand Rapids and went back to SHL? And now looking at it now, would you still technically be mad if you were? Like, are you happy with the way that the season went for MBN and how it's translated so far throughout this year since being drafted? Because he was supposed to go to Grand Rapids and he said no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm not sad. I'm not happy. I'm glad he's got that other year of experience. I mean, it's not like he was playing over in the SHL limited minutes. I'm pretty sure he was playing a pretty good amount of minutes every single night. You know, so
Getting top line in the playoffs sometimes too.
There you go, right? So no, I mean, I'm not bummed that he missed out on GR. I think he's going to have his time in GR. And I'm just, if anything, I'm kind of happy to see that Steve Yzerman allowed him to make that decision. The management group allowed him to decide for himself what he wanted to do. I mean, he's a kid, man. You talk about a kid, like he's a kid. Was he ready to just say, "Hey, family, I'm going to North America"? Maybe not, man. There's a lot that plays into that stuff. So
Right.
now we know that him and ASP are coming over. Don't think they're going back, so they're coming over, and once they're over, they're here. Now the fun starts, man. Now the fun starts for these guys.
Absolutely. Yep. And then my Broncos won in double overtime against Denver to go to the championship game for the first time in collegiate history. It was their first time being in the Frozen Four too, Carlo. And then moving forward, obviously, 2 Saturday nights, my Western Michigan Broncos won the Frozen Four championship. Let's go, Broncos reign. Let's go, boys. Row the boat. That's not our phrase anymore, but I'm keeping it. Let's go, Broncos. Dude, that was huge. 6-2 victory over Boston University. Oh, my God, Carlo. I know you didn't get to watch it, but I'm very proud of them. I never thought that this would ever have happened, and I even said it, too, when our football team won the MAC championship way back when. I was fortunate enough to be around for that. It's just, super exciting, really big for the university. Put Western on the map even more, and I got plenty of text messages asking, why is Western always so good at hockey, man? They just know how to recruit, man. That's just all it is. So what does it mean to you, buddy? Does it mean anything to you that they won?
Well, it means to me, it's great to see you so happy, man. It's really awesome to see you super pumped up. I think that part's big. But you know what? I think, what you're feeling right now, I think we're going to start feeling this for the Wings pretty soon, dude. And that kind of segues into my final thought for the episode, but congratulations to your Broncos. Congratulations to you. It's great to see anybody super excited about their team. I know what that's like. It's been a while, but I know what that's like.
Before you go into your final thoughts, other news, I just want to highlight this one was super funny. Other news, people around the NHL are freaking out over Habs fans having a live stream to watch Ivan Demidov arrive in Montreal. Did you find that weird at all to you, Carlo? Is it weird that people are watching him, or is it more weird that people are freaking out about them watching a kid on live?
Can I say, I didn't even know that was happening, and I'll go with both.
Nah, fair enough. Yeah, it is what it is. I'd probably be excited if it was my player too that I drafted. But also, final other news is that Z Boonium signs his ELC with Minnesota. I'm pretty sure he played like over 50 minutes that night in the semifinals against my Western Michigan Broncos. And he was by far, I would say, Carlo, I know that Western won, but I would say he was probably by far the best player out there that game. So
yeah, he's talented, dude. He's good. No surprise that he got his 3-year ELC with the Wild. Good for him. Congrats to him.
I know we make jokes about teams being stuck in the middle and they never end up being good, but I truly think Minnesota, they just got to figure it out. They could be a really good team for quite some time. So that defense. So, but yeah, Carlo, that's final. Let's go ahead and jump into our final thoughts. That's all I got, buddy. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, final thoughts are we're getting close. I know it's tough for people right now who are still probably riding the emotions of the Red Wings being eliminated, but big offseason coming up. Big offseason next season. I don't expect all the holes to be identified this offseason. That's just not realistic, and that's not going to happen. But I think enough will happen this offseason for us to take some steps next season. So that is my final thought. Hopefully it's a wise one, and hopefully it ages well. Time will tell. Turn it over to you, buddy. What's your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, I still firmly believe no, Steve's not going to buy out the player that you hate. I still firmly believe no, Steve Yzerman is not going to get the top big name free agent that everyone wants, which would be Mitch Marner. I just don't think he's going to do it. That's 7 by 14 mil potentially, Carlo. It goes back to all the other things that we said. And all the other notes I said in that post too. That's just kind of what I believe in. I want him to. I want people to understand that I want him to, but that's just my take from it. Yeah, other than that, my final thoughts are, I want the Red Wings to keep losing. But obviously I'm here just to have fun. So if they win, they win. I'm going to be happy too. I'm not going to be that disappointed, but I want a really good draft position. If we can somehow make it in the top 10 for a draft pick, that's going to be really exciting because that increases our chance at the lottery, your luck, Carlo. And if any year's the year, it's this year. I firmly believe it, dude.
You're not wrong. You're right. If there is any year
Hockey
to go
gods.
that would be huge for the position and where Steve has set this team up to be this offseason and next offseason. That would be massive.
That would quickly turn around the rebuild, and maybe we'll save that as well for a future episode. We talked a lot on this one. I think we can cut it off here. It's been almost 2 hours for us. I got a lot of editing to do. And so, Carlo, with that being said, thank you to everyone stopping by and joining us on this brand new episode if you are returning. But also, if you are brand new, thanks for stopping by and joining us on this brand new episode. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, do all the other stuff I said at the beginning too. We got to get off. And until next time, we'll see y'all on the next one. See ya.
Later.